Our sermon today is on gardening and farming. It's being taken from Fundamentals of Unicult. If you have this book, you can get it on Etsy if you don't have it. If you already have it, turn to page 87 in the second edition. And we'll just read from it for a little while, and then we'll talk about the importance of gardening and farming and why it is a radical act. Our earth, Mother Gaia, is deeply connected to us. When we work in her soil, she provides us with spiritual, emotional, and physical nourishment. As much food as is harmoniously possible shall be grown and shared among Unicult members and the greater community. This food shall be grown organically and in harmony with all things. Most of the book isn't written in this way of direction, but when I wrote this chapter, I was called to write it in this way of directing and of writing sort of like a rule for Unicult of how much food can we possibly grow within Unicult and how much food can we possibly distribute to our larger communities and to those in need. Living in harmony with animals is accepted if it is desired, but no harm should ever come to these animals. No animal shall be killed or exploited for food. By ingesting the highest energy diet possible, we can directly raise our energy. The energy of a food source is cultivated throughout its life. The environment that it is grown and harvested in contributes to the energetic exchange with your body. In Unicult, a harmonious diet is recommended. Currently, the closest way to achieve that is by eating whole foods and not products. Additionally, the only way to avoid consuming suffering is to enjoy a plant-based diet. This will give you the highest level of health available. Ultimately, like all things in Unicult, only you know the best possible solutions to your own life. Listen to your body and consume the foods that are right for you. Growing your own food can greatly increase the energy and health of your body. Even if you live in a city, growing just a small amount of your own food can be beneficial to you and the world. Plant organically. Touch each seed that you plant to your tongue before planting it to transfer the energy and needs of your body. The plant will respond by growing all the nutrients you need to heal. Bless each seed as you plant it. Bless the microbes, bless the creepy crawlies, bless the rain, bless the sun, bless the earth in abundance it shares with you. Okay, so that's a pretty straightforward chapter, but let's talk about the reasons why gardening and farming is a radical act. When World War II, I believe, was happening, and there were food shortages, people were planting victory gardens, and these victory gardens were meant to supplant the food shortages and to support the efforts of the war. I really like this word victory garden, and I think I like the idea of having a garden as a sort of political act. Obviously, we're in a different yet reminiscent political time, and we don't necessarily have food shortages right now, but what we do have is nutrition shortages. In the 1980s, there was a huge push to make all of agriculture a big industry. It's often referred to as big ag. The phrase "go big or go home" was actually created by lobbyists in the government to create large-scale agricultural businesses and to push out small-scale farmers. There's an amazing writer on this, on the modern farm subject, and on, I wonder if where his book is. Let me see if I can grab it. You know I'm always doing this. Okay, I don't have the one that I'm gonna talk about, but this one is called You Can Farm by Joel Salatin, and he's just this amazing radical farmer, and I highly recommend if you find one of his books, you can check it out. This one's called You Can Farm, and Joel Salatin has a farm called Polyface Farms, and he has another book called Everything I Want to Do is Illegal, and in the book Everything I Want to Do is Illegal, he's just talking about farming. He's talking about healthy, natural, healing farming practices, and even they have livestock and they create meat. But he is prevented from processing the animals in a way that is healthy or safe. He's not allowed to kill the animals outdoors. It has to be done indoors. There are all these regulations that make it so he has to outsource the killing of his livestock to a large scale to a large-scale factory farm. So there are only, I think, 3 or 4 places where they kill animals in the United States. They've created a system that is dependent on large-scale companies, on giant corporations. Small-scale farmers have been pushed out of the industry, and large-scale farmers have been rewarded with subsidies, etc. On top of that, I don't know if you all have done the research on chicken farming. You might think, what does this have to do with anything? Why do I care about farming? We have to understand that our food is our medicine, that what we eat energetically and physically is making up our conscious experience of our world. And to blindly close our eyes and just assume that food is something that we are disconnected from disconnects us from the earth, and it disconnects us from our bodies. So we're talking about a bunch of different stuff right now, but there are so many, I could just go on and on about all the predatory and toxic ways that our farming standards are currently set up. Chicken farmers are in so much debt. They have to, God, I wish I could eloquently explain this. I'm going to have to get the article and post it in the description for you all. It's so depressing, but basically, to be a chicken farmer, you have to buy all this equipment, you have to create the layout. You basically do exactly what Tyson or one of the other big chicken companies wants you to do. You get the plans and everything. You go into tons of debt. I think it's $100,000, maybe it's $1 million. I think it's actually $1 million debt in order to start becoming a chicken farmer, and then you only make $40,000 a year. These numbers might be slightly off, but we are close. So the entire situation of the food cycle, especially with meat, we're talking about animals. We all know the situation about animals, right? Animals don't have a lot of room to run around. Sometimes they are malformed because they're genetically bred. They're pumped full of antibiotics. Sometimes their beaks are cut off. Sometimes they, so that they don't cannibalize each other because they're so stressed out. The energy that the animal is raised in has an effect on the quality of the meat. So as you're creating fear and trauma and pain in the animals, you're going to be consuming that energy. You are, okay? And I'm not just going to stop there. The people who are raising these animals are in a predatory contract. They're victims of predatory contracts with larger corporations. Or they are indigenous or Hispanic workers oftentimes who are doing their best to make a living, and they are abused in the sense that they have to do this horrific activity of killing animals day in and day out, and they are traumatized by that. So even the human workers are traumatized by the activities that they are doing to provide this meat. If you have seen the movie Seaspiracy, the whole ocean situation is also totally tragic. If you do eat meat, I understand some people, it's right for their body. People have told me that meat is right for my body. I don't begrudge that. But I do say, if you're going to eat meat, raise it yourself. Have a relationship with those animals. Love them. I don't think it's good to love something and then kill it. I think it's super psychopathic, but also it's so much better than simply outsourcing that labor to other people and then buying it in a little package and eating it and thinking that you're disconnected from this reality. This isn't a sermon to make you feel bad. I'm trying to just say gardening and farming and taking our own responsibility for our connection to our food is a radical political act. When you grow your own food, you are ensuring that the soil is nutritious. You can make sure that the soil is actually balanced and good. One of the main issues with monoculture, with the idea of creating this industrial reality around our food supply, is the idea that we have fields and fields and fields of the same plant. Why do we do this? It's easy to take a big bag of the same seed, plant it all in rows, take a machine that is capable of processing that plant, run it through the fields, and it's very efficient, right? But it's actually not efficient, because what you're doing is you're creating a monoculture reality, which is the opposite of diversity. And the same plant, one field of the same plant depletes the soil of the same nutrients. So traditional farming practices and small-scale farming practices include growing different types of plants that enrich the soil and that so the idea of the trifecta of beans, corn, and squash all work to create a harmonious environment for each of those three plants to grow. The corn creates a stalk for the beans to climb, and then the squash and the corn and the beans all work together to create a more nutritious soil so that all the nitrogen isn't depleted and there's a better balance in the soil. Monoculture also puts the plants at a greater risk of pests. If there's a locust that comes through and likes a certain type of plant, they say, oh wow, this is great. And if you have a whole field of it, then those locusts are going to propagate, and they're all going to build, and then they're going to attack those. What is our solution to this problem? Is to create GMOs, is to create more Monsanto toxic poisons. The state of our farming, the state of our food right now is fucking tragic. It is. Eating organic can kind of help. Going to your local farmer's market is a great idea. Growing your own food is an even better idea. What can you grow where you live? Even if you're not growing the majority of your food, simply having that connection, simply creating that genetic relationship with your own plants, with understanding where food comes from. You can grow potatoes in a bucket. Take some potatoes that are sprouting, put them in a bucket with a little bit of dirt and hay or some kind of grass, because they need room to grow. And just cover the potatoes just a little bit at the bottom of the bucket. Drill some holes in the bottom. I usually use like a big 50-gallon trash can, right? And this is great because when you're done, you can just dump it out and you've got all these potatoes for the year. Okay? So take your plastic trash can, drill holes in the bottom for drainage. At the bottom, put some soil and some grass or some hay. Put a couple potatoes in there that are sprouted and cover it up just a little bit. In a few weeks, it'll grow sprouts. When you see those sprouts, cover those up with soil mixed with hay or grass, okay? And keep doing that as the sprouts come up. And by the end of the season, this is the perfect time to talk about this because we're in spring. By the end of the season, your trash can will be full of potatoes. Full of potatoes. And all you have to do to dig them up is dump it out. Okay, you can grow your own weed, you can grow your own strawberries, you can grow your own peppers, you can grow your own spinach and kale. Whatever you like to eat, you can grow. I had some roommates once who were very into meat, and they grew this big garden, and they never ate any of the vegetables. They didn't know how to cook them. They didn't ever eat them. And I thought that was very strange. But I get it, because we're so used to having food prepared for us. What is it that you like to eat? Do you like to eat carrots with your hummus? Do you like to eat beans? What things can you grow in the space that you have? If you are just living in a place where you just have a balcony, what can you grow on your balcony? If you have a little backyard, can you build a little garden box? Being connected to your food and being connected to the land and being connected to the soil and taking time every day to go outside and tend to your plants and to notice what weeds grow and what are naturally growing around you, and how the process of things grow. You might fail miserably, but isn't it good to fail this year and fail next year, etc., and figure it out so that you can actually be successful if there ever is a food shortage, so that you actually know how to grow food if you ever have to rely on it? I remember in 2020 they were saying that we were going to have food shortages, and I got a little scared and I planted a big garden. That garden did not succeed. I had some kind of roly-polies that attacked it, and they ate the whole thing. And it's a good thing we didn't have food shortages because I wouldn't have been successful. The reason why I want you all to grow your own food is not just for your own self-sufficiency. It's for our community sufficiency. If and when these big agricultural companies fail at providing nutritious food for us, as if it's not already happening, we can create a system of abundance for ourselves, our friends, and our family. Maybe we will never have a food shortage. Maybe we will never have a food crisis. I surely hope that that's the case. With global warming and everything, it's definitely concerning. But if we utilize the space that we have in each of our homes to grow the food that we will eat, and we learn these things and we practice these things and we remember them in our hearts and in our souls, we connect to our ancestors who had to know these things, and we ensure that our future generations have access to our genetic knowledge of digging in the dirt and of cultivating food and of growing and communicating with the land. We are doing a great service for our ancestors, we are doing a great service for ourselves, and we are doing a great service for the future. So right now, our lives don't depend on the fact that we need to grow our own gardens or our own foods. I am a cult leader here at what I perceive to be the end of the world, the end of the old world. In Unitopia, the connection with our land, the connection with the earth, the connection with the dirt, the connection with our food is what makes us joyous. It's what makes us nourished. The act of gardening, the act of farming should be a nourishing act. The microbes in the soil actually relieve depression. The microbes in the soil actually boost your immune system. To be outside, to be digging in the dirt, to be saying hello to little bugs that look like aliens and worms, to be growing food that is delicious to eat, these are the things that we will do in Unitopia. I just wanted to talk about all the different books that I recommend. But basically, if you're interested, go to your library when it opens. See if you can borrow books from other people. Look up online resources. Permaculture gardening is huge. Really, really, really important. When I'm talking about, I skipped over the monoculture and the pests and the fact that we use the insecticides and GMO processing to deter pests and also control the seed supply. That's another major issue. But the natural way of doing that, there are many ways of doing it. A diverse garden, a diverse farm, something that has different kinds of plants and different kinds of even flowers, actually deters pests. It actually creates a system of balance and a balanced ecosystem that generates the most abundance with the least amount of pests. Diversity as a metaphor is very important for us to remember, especially during this time. When we have monoculture, when we have a field of the same plant, and it is subject to the destruction of pests, and it is not as strong, and it is depleting the soil, and the plants themselves are not as strong as they could be. That is a metaphor. That is an example of what we have going on culturally as well. If everyone conforms to the same energy and everyone is expected to grow from the same soil, then we are fucked. Diversity is the key to life. And that is what we're talking about when we talk about all one. When we're talking about all one, we're talking about the fact that everyone can exist to be who they really are in love, so long as they're not harming anybody else. And that unique energy is holy. That unique energy is sacred. And with that unique energy, each of you, as your unique selves, has the ability to bring a gift to this world that nobody else can bring. If we suppress your unique energy and we say, you should not be who you are, you should be like everybody else, then we are actually doing you and the world a great disservice. Our world is a world of monoculture, and it's unhealthy. As we diversify where plants are grown, what kind of soil they're grown in, what type of plants they're grown in, We are actually creating a more beneficial reality, a more beneficial experience for ourselves and for the world. There are great, great, great gifts to be had when we embrace diversity. I always talk about this study, but the UN did a study in like 2013 called Stop Before It's Too Late, and they said that big agriculture is going to be the end of us all, and it's actually creating climate change. And they said that the only way to do that is to go back to small-scale organic farms. Nothing has been done about this, even though it's known. And we have to take this into our own hands. We have to plant our own food. If you're interested in doing a seed exchange in Unicult, please join the Unicult and go into the server, and we'll do a seed exchange in nature activities, in the server part, nature activities. If you have seeds that you want to share, you can post them, and other people, you can send them to each other. Because I know it can be expensive sometimes to grow food, but when we all work together, one pack of seeds is like $3, but do you need the whole pack of seeds? Probably not. So we can share our seed supplies. It is really important for us to learn these things, to remember these things, and to have a relationship with the earth and with our food. Join Unicult today. I really am passionate about this topic, and I know people don't necessarily understand why, because it's not really dire and you can just go across the street and grab a burrito. It's not a big deal, right? But when we take the time and the energy to have a relationship with our food and with our plants and with the animals even that we're eating and that we're putting into our bodies and integrating into our energy systems, and we think about these things deeply, then we are having the potential to radically shift our consciousness. We are having the potential to radically shift our realities for the future. I hope that we don't enter into a time of food shortages. But if we do, I hope that Unicult is prepared. I hope that Unicult is prepared to be the leaders of fresh veggies for their whole neighborhood and to teach others how to garden. So if you're at the beginning of this journey, know that that is your calling as a member of Unicult, to learn these things and to hold that space and to create abundance from the land, from whatever backyard or balcony you have, and to share your abundance of food and of knowledge and of love with the people you love and with your neighbors and with your neighborhoods. The Mormons all have like a stockpile of like 1 year's worth of food. That's valuable, sure, but what's more valuable is a community of people who know how to garden. What's more valuable is a community of people who know how to create the herbs, the foods, the plants, and the animals that they need for their own sustenance. Honestly, Nicole brings up a good point. She says, anyone who's has a garden, and if there's shortages, be prepared to defend your crops from raiders. What's so funny about this is, honestly, I don't think most people realize that food comes from plants. When I think of something like doomsday preppers, and I think of raiders, and I think of people who are hungry, I think of them going into grocery stores, and I think of them going into like fast food places. People are not thinking that food grows in gardens. I don't think that anyone would be like coming for your garden, honestly. And I mean, I spent a lot of time watching Doomsday Preppers, and I thought it was just madness because everybody was talking about stockpiling sugar. And only like 2 people in the history of that show grew gardens. And when they asked the people who grew gardens, they said, well, are you worried about raiders? And they said, no, we have enough for everyone. We'll just grow more. And that is the difference. When you have a connection to the limitless abundance that can be provided by the earth, and people are hungry around you, you don't need to have a gun to shoot them. You just say, oh, now you're here, we have extra hands, let's just grow more food and we can all be happy together. It's Unitopia. It's Unitopia. Okay, let's do a prayer for all the gardens. If you're doing Unicult practice, I encourage you to grow at least one food. Grow at least one food. Beans are relatively easy and interesting. You can grow kale, you can grow spinach, you can grow carrots, you can grow potatoes in a bucket like I mentioned. You can buy the plants, already started and just take care of them every day. Just give them a little bit of attention every day and make sure that you can water them and give them the space that they need to grow and to be happy, and make sure they're not in the sun too much or not in the shade too much. And that is your Unicult practice. And put your updates in nature activities, or in food recipes and medicine, or gardening and home improvement, any of those. Just share it with us, or in victories and success. Nefertiti is really passionate about this topic too. I don't know if you can hear her. Spirit of Uni, we call you here today to bless all of our inspirations, to bless the springtime, to get us excited and just super excited to plant a garden, however small or however big, to share our seeds and to see the abundance that is all around us through the benefit and the bounty of earth. We pray that we can focus our attention toward our diets, toward our earth connection, so that we can grow the plants that we would like to eat, to have a healthier relationship with the energy that we are consuming. We pray for all the people who are gardening, because it is a radical political act. And we are praying for all the animals, the plants, the earth, the creepy crawlies, the bugs and the insects and the seeds and the little plants and the big plants, to work in harmony with each other so that we can all benefit immensely. Uni bless. All right, today on the server we have new member welcome / uni brunch. Go ahead and head over and join the server, share what you're eating, talk about the sermon, and remember we have Wednesday's sermon to cover this topic again, and to share your opinions and listen to Uni Magic talk about this from his perspective. We have Thursday Church by Aaron. We have the new moon coming up. I think Uni Coven is planning something for the new moon. And we got the new server, the new channel, Nature Activities, where you can post some of these things. We have movie night, we have game night, we have a newsletter also that goes out on the new moon. You can sign up for it on universe.com. That's UN1V3RS3, our official website. And I'm so happy and so grateful to be here with you. Today we also have the devoted member orientation, so I hope to see you all there. I did see that 2 people are going to have to reschedule and get filled in later, but for the most part, we will see the rest of you there. Uni bless, uni bless, uni bless.